Hello and welcome to Economics, Unit 1, pages 15 through 16. Okay, so important, the chart on page 16 must be answered based on what you saw in the class activity and the video combined. You'll find some of those answers in here, and some of those depends on how much you're paying attention to the class activity. They shouldn't be that challenging. They're not deep level thinking questions. But just so you know, if that's how you're going to answer the final chart total. Some here, some, and what you saw in class. So, continuing on with the idea of dealing with scarcity, different countries have different ways of addressing the scarcity problem of there not being enough resources to meet unlimited wants. The way a nation determines how to use those resources, humans, goods, services, everything, not just items, to satisfy its people's needs and wants is called an economic system. That's going to be the topic of this whole video. The success of a country's economic system is dependent upon how it answers three basic questions. We're going to cover those one at a time. First question, what should be produced? We're going to use the example of guns and butter. What to produce and how much. Now, guns represents self-defense. And butter represents feeding your people. Now, if because you have limited resources, but you have an unlimited need for both food and an unlimited need for defense, because you might, especially in America, we always have enemies, and we always have people that need to eat consistently, continuously. But we can't always meet all those needs at the same time to the same extent because we still only have limited resources. As wealthy as we are, we still have our own limits. So the more money we invest in guns, self-defense, the less money we have to invest in food, serving the population at home. But if we start to go too far towards butter, that means taking care of our people at home with food and necessities, then that means we have less resources to develop into guns or put into guns or in self-defense. So we have to have a balance. The more we make of one thing, the less we can make of another. So over here we have an example of guns and butter put into graphical format. We've got a curve here showing all the possibilities of combinations of making butter versus guns. So here we go all the way over here. It says we could produce 20 guns and 900 pounds of butter. Over here, we could produce 180 guns and 100 pounds of butter. So you can see how the numbers go down in kind of a inverse reaction. So as one goes up, the other goes down. So depending on what our needs are, we want to find a place somewhere along the curve that best meets our needs. And there's no always consistently right answer. There's been periods of our history where we could lay back on the defense. And then there's some times where we have to sacrifice at home, especially in wartime, to make sure we have enough military resources to survive. And then everything in between. So again, you're not necessarily looking for the perfect right answer that you just leave it there. The right answer will change along the curve as the times change, as your situation changes. Next question, how should it be produced? How should it be produced? So who is going to make all these guns or sticks of butter? How many Americans do we put towards making these things? What education level do we need to require? And I'm not just talking about high school or college. Do we need some vocational programs or certification programs, a one-year training course? What kind of education is needed to make the best butter, the most effective butter, food services, or the best guns? Like, do we have simple guns so we don't need a lot of education, or do we got to spend money to train people up so they can make the best guns in the world? What do we pay people to incentivize them to do these things and to do the best they can? And what other resources do we need to put into guns and butter? Because some of the resources that we need for guns are different from what we need from food. So what resources do we need? Because that'll affect just how costly guns and or butter will be. And final question, for whom should it be produced? So who's getting the guns? who's getting the butter? Is it just, okay, guns and butter are made, first come, first serve? Or is it by whoever's wealthier gets more and whoever's poor gets less? Is it going to be divided up by physically where you are? Like maybe some parts of the country need more food, or some parts of the country need more defense and less food. Is it going to be by lottery? Are we going to vote? Are we just going to equally distribute to everyone no matter what? Or some other plan? I don't even know. Who should it be produced? Who's going to benefit? Who's going to get these things your country's making? That's the final question that all economic systems, governments are trying to answer. So there's three different types of categories of economies. There's traditional. This is the original type of economic system before any others were invented. And today you still see it in underdeveloped countries, really poor countries that are not very well organized, in which all three questions are answered according to tradition. It's just the way things have always been done and the way things always will be done. Just we have certain customs and habits. Maybe they're good, maybe they're bad, but we just do them because that's the way it always has been. Command system. A perfect, pure command system is when the government leaders control all factors of production. The leaders answer the questions based on what they believe, the leaders believe, the country's best interests are. They tell you what you're going to make, how you're going to make it, and what the price is going to be, and who's going to get it, who can buy it. The government makes every single little decision as far as resources, jobs, work, everything. And then there's the opposite spectrum from command economy, which is market economy. Economic decisions are made not by the government, but by individuals looking out for their own and their family's best interests. So kind of everyone for themselves. The market, that term, the market, means the voluntary exchange, means people willingly choosing what they're going to sell and what they're going to buy. And this can be on a local level and it can be on a global level. But that's why it's not a command economy, because people have full freedom on what they buy and what they sell. Whereas command economy, you buy, you sell whatever the government tells you, and if you go against them, you'll be punished. Here, every man for himself to either succeed or fail based on your own ability. And in a market economy, and this is closest to what America has. America has a little bit of both. But as a market economy, there's something called circular flow of income, where on TV you might hear this thing about job creators being the wealthy business owners, and that's not true. The reality is everybody who is a member of a market economy is a job creator. So we'll start with the households. That's like you and me. We make money by being hired by businesses. So money comes from businesses into our households. And then some of that money goes out in taxes that goes to the government, and some of it goes in the form of buying things from those businesses, right? Like if you work for Amazon, you're probably also going to buy things from Amazon. So money comes from Amazon to you if you work for them. And then if you buy something, then some of that money goes right back because you're buying things from Amazon. And then those businesses, they also pay taxes and sell things to the government. So there's resources that go to the government in the form of taxes and ways they benefit the government. And then things that businesses buy or the businesses sell to the government. So money goes into businesses from the government whenever they buy things from business, whenever they invest in business. And also, even though we put taxes into the government puts resources back into us with like roads and policemen and teachers and nurses and social services and Medicare and all that kind of stuff. So money keeps flowing through the these three different levels: so households, businesses, governments. And that's circular flow of income. We are going to be coming back to that. Ask me questions if you have them. This will be a recurring theme in later units. So what does America do? We're kind of a mixed economy, meaning we are mostly private controlled, meaning people have mostly freedom to do what they want, but we do have some government control to come in and make sure that things are somewhat fair, or at least honest to a certain degree, and also make sure some people are getting resources so they're not just left out in the cold, maybe due to luck or someone taking advantage. So we still have the government to control, because remember, pure market economy is freedom to be as good or as bad as you want to be. So we do have public or government control to limit that to a certain extent, but still make sure we all have a lot of freedom as well, not like a pure command. That's it. Don't forget the Edmodo quiz and go on to the next video up here on the screen, and I'll talk to you in class.